Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good evening. Very good evening.
Hello
Welcome.
from us melting in the heat. Sending cool
It's
thoughts out to
very
everyone.
hot in Prague, like 34 degrees outside. And in my house, it's like 28. Still, it's a little bit cooler. We don't have air condition here, so we don't like it. And it's quite hot.
Yes. Yes, you can see
And in
I've just
Zurich,
showered and wet my hair so that I wouldn't
yeah,
be too
yeah,
hot.
absolutely. So, good evening. I think in Finland, you guys have Nika, you have probably better weather than here. In Switzerland or in Czech.
Yes, but we're
Okay,
gonna have a
guys,
little bit
if
of
you
a
can put in comments that you can hear us and see us again. Tonight we are broadcasting from Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, and YouTube Live. So all channels are there, represented. So if you can be so kind and put the it's Marek Koníček is saying good evening from Facebook, and I will check the LinkedIn on my phone.
LinkedIn is always slightly delayed, but
It
it
is.
usually gets
I
there.
mean, blame
So
Microsoft. Blame Microsoft.
never, never. Only good
Uh,
things to say, right?
Look, it's 9 years since I left, so you can. So
We'll blame
it
the
is.
new leadership, right?
It is that. It is that. Absolutely. So
Perfect.
yeah.
We're
Okay.
there.
Let's. Yeah, I think we can start. Absolutely. So Lisa, why
Yes.
don't you kick it off?
I always love to kick off our evenings, our topics, and the topics often come from what you all are interested in, what you tell us you want to know, what you put to us in the comments. And recently, we've had a lot of people talking to us about how to build a personal brand. Now, across Europe, at least in Western Europe, many of us are taught be humble, don't be bragging. Now, I'm originally American, so I have bragging in my DNA. But many in Switzerland are taught from a very young age, don't be so egotistical, don't talk about yourself, don't show off about yourself, just keep your head down. This is often the case as well in many Asian cultures. Just work hard and your work will speak for itself. And for better or for worse, that's not really how it works. The way that people get ahead, early career, you can get ahead by working hard and people will notice you. And then around mid career, it's not going to work for you anymore. You're not going to become CEO because you're a hard worker. The higher up you get, the more it's just the ticket to entry that you're going to be a hard worker who's doing a good job. That part's clear. You don't even have to show
Absolutely.
off. You don't have to say it's your best attribute. You wouldn't be where you are if you couldn't do that. So now the question is, and what's special about you? What's extra about you? What's unique about you? Why should we have you as our leader? And that's why people need to build a personal brand. So many of us, ooh, I'm hesitant. I don't want, it feels fake. I don't want to market myself. I don't want to play politics. We've heard it all. And so what ends up happening is you don't tell your story. You let your story just be told out there by other people or not told at all. So it doesn't make sense to you have a story out there, whether you want it or not. We all have a reputation. We all have a brand out there. Better that you're the one who's helping to shape the story in the way that you want it to be out there. So Jan and I are going to give you lots of very practical tips today for how to build it, even if you're feeling a little nervous. I don't want to be bragging. I don't want to be on social media saying how great I am. That's okay. We have tips for you, even for those who feel a little uncomfortable about that.
Yeah. First of all, let me start. Why, whatever you do, and you should understand, I work with some people from business. I work also with some artists, and I work with a lot of top athletes. Okay. All of them, I'm telling them, athletes, if you are telling me I need some sponsorship, some additional money, whatever, why don't you are maybe on Instagram, which is fine. Why don't you at LinkedIn? There is a very small number of athletes on LinkedIn. LinkedIn,
Yeah.
it's like 800 million people with the money and influence. Those are two things. No, really. I mean, that's LinkedIn does not have that many users as Instagram or whatever. Every tool is different. So so you need to really, whatever you do, you need to build your brand, because the word is over communicated. And I remember I was like, my sponsorship budget for whatever reasons was X. Okay, it was a reasonable money. It was like a couple of thousand million US dollars, right? And but that money was finite, right? And
Yes.
obviously people were asking me. I said, that's fine, we can sponsor some stuff, but I want also, if it's not like CSR, you should not expect any return on investment. But if I sponsor some athlete, I would like to have that many articles. You know what I mean, right?
Yes.
Absolutely, this is it. I mean, there's no free lunch, right? And you should understand, a lot of people are saying, but I don't have a story. Everybody is original. Everybody
Everybody.
was born with the original set of genes. Okay, so everybody is original. The issue is that once we start to go to the school and later on to the work, we try to behave as a copies, because
No.
as you said, in all languages, I know like foreign languages quite well. uh there is something, like in my language, in Czech language, it says, Ger, you should sit in the corner, and if you will behave, they will find you, right?
Yeah, right.
And you know what Cinderella did? Cinderella went to the ball, otherwise she would not meet the prince, right? This is it.
Yes.
So you need to do some steps, right? If you sit in the corner today, you know what, nothing will happen, because
Yes.
the world is over communicated, and people, they have so many things. So I think the biggest decision, and the most important decision human beings are doing during their life, is decision to be yourself. If
Yes.
you are yourself, if you will decide, okay, I'll be who I am, and I will build my story and my reputation on that. Yesterday I was briefed by, I will do something with PwC. It's like 4,000 people, PwC in Luxembourg. Okay.
Yeah.
And I asked them afterwards, I said, well, tell me, why, guys, did you hire me? And they said, because, when I hear you for the first time, you started like, hey, I'm former Microsoft executive, and those are all successes, whatever. But then you very openly spoke about your depression, what happened, what the fuck ups you did during your career, and so on. And this is it. And it's a real, it is about a real story. So everybody got, some story. And some people are saying, but I'm not able to sell. I mean, you are selling all life, even if you are selling your ideas.
Yeah.
If you are, if you have an argument, who will walk your dog? Whether you or your husband or your wife. That's the selling. That's the selling.
Yeah.
Now, before we will give you some tools, let me give you some names and some people who what they said about personal brand. Jeff Bezos got some interesting, definition of the personal brand. He said basically that the personal brand is what the other will say about you once you left the room. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's very true, right? That's the story. The other element, I would say, I had the privilege to really work with Bill Gates, and Bill Gates still, this is no kidding. If you look at, for example, LinkedIn, Bill Gates got more followership as opposed to Microsoft. Microsoft is one of the top 5 brands, recognized in all measurements, everything, right? Bill Gates got still, higher reputation than Microsoft. And it was always like that. It was interesting to see the dynamics, right? Because even like, look, I remember when we have this huge dispute with European Commission, okay? We were threatened to pay 11 billion US dollars. I was involved in negotiation, whatever, okay? And Bill Gates came to Brussels, all European commissioners were queuing to get a photo with Bill Gates, even though they didn't like Microsoft because we were, having a suit. They were having a case against us, So this is the power of the brand. Another, a guy I would use. Here is Djokovic. He's still, playing, but a guy who is not playing anymore and who is a huge brand, Roger Federer from your country, from Switzerland.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
And it's like the clothes, the sports clothes, shoes, and so on. But obviously, he's a great guy. I think he made like 30% of his fortune through playing, like the prize money from the tournament, and 70% from sponsors. Because here is the guy who can, talk to the sport journalists about, sport issues, but he can talk also about, environment, about, sustainability, stuff like that, about some big issues. And I think that's another, important thing. So everybody, we are in the battle for attention, and that's why, like, the personal brand is really important. Now, the story, a lot of people try to build a story. You need to go like that, I need to be successful all the time, you will not get to the success through the lift. It's like stairs, okay? And the real, so this is story nobody will believe, that you were always successful. This is very boring story. If nothing happened in your life, boring story. This is the real story, up and down, but you go like up, but you go, you're learning some new stuff, right? And
Exactly.
this is it. That's what people love. That's why people really remember those stories, like, Cinderella, or the hero journey and stuff like that. When the things were not looking very well, people really like very much to overcome obstacles and challenges. This is the whole human history. We were always like challenging, status quo and stuff like that. I mean, if there is I talk about Gates, so let's talk about Steve Jobs. Okay, his brand, his story was more or less, I challenge status quo,
Exactly.
because he was saying, guys, why should you pay for 25 songs if you just listen to songs? That's not good, That's not fair. iTunes, right? And it's, right? So this is it. So net, before we will drill down how you can build your, brand, it is important. And whatever you do, it's important to build your story and your brand. Point.
Yes, and I just want to add that the logo for Apple, most people recognize it, they know what it is. It's an apple with a bite. Why did Steve Jobs choose that? Because who were the very first rebels? Who were the very first people to defy what they were told to do and think differently? Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. They took a bite of an apple.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that was why he said, this
Yeah,
is what represents who I am, what I stand for. Don't just
that's true.
follow what other people say, right? And here's the thing. I was funny on as you were speaking, I was frantically taking out my notebook, writing hero's journey, hero's journey. We're going to have to talk about it here
Yeah,
today. People don't want to hear I'm great, I'm great, I'm great. People want to hear I hit a dramatic moment. And then here's how I could rise up. So we'll give you all these sorts of tips. Now, I will tell you, for my team, we go in all the time to different corporates and businesses, and we actually teach trainings fully on how to build a personal brand. So for anybody who wants a template that we have about what are the different areas about personal brand, just shoot me a message on LinkedIn or leave a note in our comments here, and I can email it out to you in case anyone wants it. But the way that we build the brand, Jan is perfectly right. You need to know your story, and everyone has a story. Everyone. But sometimes it's really hard to build your story because you're starting in the wrong place. You're thinking, I need to be really dramatic. I wasn't the retired chairman of Microsoft Europe, so I must have nothing, right? And sometimes I really start with people and just say, look, what's different about you? What is something that you're fairly confident? And I would love for anyone who's in the audience and wants to play along with this. What are you fairly certain you are the only one who's in this chat, in this video session right here today to have done? So what does that mean? Maybe you, I don't know, grew up on a horse
yeah,
ranch. Maybe you, right? It doesn't have to be a specific success achievement story yet. Just something you're pretty sure you're the only one to have done. And I can tell you, when I was, I want to say 14, I went to England for the first time and I made a guard at the Royal Palace laugh. Now, nobody else does that. You guys know they're famous for keeping a very straight face. Nobody can make them laugh. But I was able to do that. And so think about these different stories that are nobody else in the world has this story. And I start to think, okay, what does that say about me? Why was I able to do that? Right? I'm always kind of up to no good, doing silly, crazy things, right? That's kind of my personality. And sometimes it gets a laugh out of people. And so that begins to then help me to understand, this is a bit about who I am, and I've got some stories in my life to back it up. So don't think I have to have had many achievements and I have to, right? I mean, just start small by thinking about who you are. And what I would say is, if anyone, I really want you to think this, if anyone's sitting here saying, oh, but I don't know, little old me, I have nothing, I want you to think about, we've been trying to tackle climate change for decades. There were meetings of every major head of state across the world,
Right.
governments talking to each other, trying to create regulations, and they were not successful. But who was successful? A 16-year-old girl. Greta Thunberg said, I'm just not going to go to school for climate change. If anybody would have said, take a bet, all the heads of states of all governments, a 16-year-old girl, who's more likely to make an impact? And you would have said, there is no bet, it's going to be. But there's something different and unique about the way she did it. And so I want you all to understand, just because you don't have some kind of a traditional background, that's good. We don't want you to sound like everyone
Yeah.
else. We want to
I,
find.
I
Yeah,
agree
go.
with I agree with Greta. I was a big fan at the beginning, but then she started to be absolutely unauthentic. She was flying private jets and stuff like that. And I think that's a good that you mention it, because the story was really good at the beginning. That unfortunately media and a lot of other people went after her, and now even like I think she was caught by police or what. I don't know,
Yes, she was arrested fairly
but
recently.
the truth is the way it started was a for a good purpose, and I think the purpose is really important thing, because
Yes.
if you wanted to understand who you are, you need to have a self-awareness, what is really giving you energy. And after, look, I'm 61 years old, and I was like studying, because a lot of times in my life I was successful, but I was like, hey, is it really, meaning in my life that I did, half million US dollar, million, billion, one
I was going to
billion,
say, it's so
many
small.
more billion? No. But then I started to study what I really like on the way. And you know what I like? I like to help other people to understand who they are so they can figure out who they can be. And it doesn't matter whether it's Lehecka was a man class 16 now at Wimbledon. Unfortunately, yesterday he got injured. He got the infection
Oh,
with Medvedev, so he need to like gave up. But he will be fine. We just talk now. So whether it's like Wimbledon player at man class 16, great success, or I got some, video from some girl. She was like, when she was 7 years old, she went to my seminar with the parents, and I was always like that they need to be, tough. I make it. And she's like 8, and she sent me video. She was going to some ice water, and she was like,
oh.
I make it, stuff like that. I was like
Ah!
smiling. I said, hey, this is it, for me, it's the same level. Lechka, because Lechka was 2 years ago 600. Now it's like 31 or whatever, right? In the world. So
Exactly.
this is it, and that's what is giving me a lot of energy. So I think for you, because once you will realize what is giving you energy, you can, as a next step, you can figure out what is your meaning in your life. Meaning is a huge thing. Because if you have a meaning in your life, and you are really authentic, that you really mean it, what you are saying, right? And you do what people will start to believe in what you believe, and then you will inspire people. Because you should, at the end of the day, you should, whatever is your story, you should inspire other people. This is it. That story, otherwise, that story makes, if it's just for you, that story makes no sense. For example, the reason why I was like public that I was in the mental hospital, I want other people to be inspired that they should avoid, they should have more mental rest and so on, right? And really, I was very often like fixed mindset, only numbers and the results. They should take care of the performance and recovery as a part of the performance, whether they are athletes or businessmen, it doesn't matter, right?
Yes.
And again, I'm doing still many mistakes right on the way, but you enjoy, because if you like what you do and you do some mistakes, those mistakes are like, I take whatever is happening in my life, good, bad, it's all lessons, and you learn. You learn and you move on. You learn and you move on. That's how your brain works. So it is really important to understand like what are your talents and what is if you do small exercise, your talents, your values, and your passions, those three circles, and when it overlaps, this is your meaning in your life. Then you can build your story, right?
Yeah, and I wish
Because
you were wearing your "Be More of Who You
be more
Are"
of who
shirt
are you
because
already.
that's you.
This
That's your
guy,
brand.
this has this T-shirt, not this one, but this T-shirt. It's got a lot of story. It was in 2012 Olympic Games in London. Andy Murray won Olympic Games in this T-shirt.
Mm,
Not this one. You know what I mean, right?
mm.
This exactly the same.
Exactly.
It's like vintage Surrey. I've got it from some of my customers in UK. But be more of who you are. This is it. Because all roles, all other roles are taken in your life. Michelle
That's
is here. Michelle is here.
Yeah, hi, Michelle. So this is exactly right. The first part of personal branding, Jan's got it. So I like to break it up for people and make it really easy to understand. Step one is to know who you are and what you stand for. And that sounds really big. And when Jan says, hey, know your life's purpose, I get that for a lot of people, it's like, oh, I don't know my life's purpose. Don't put pressure that you know the
Yeah.
exact definition of it. More, as Jan said, follow. What are your values? What drives you? I ask people all the time when they say, oh, I don't know what I stand for in the world. I say, well, what's the thing that makes you the most angry? I don't mean your coworker who's annoying or the fact that your husband didn't put the dishes away. I mean, like, in the world, when you're reading the news, what makes you angry? Are you angry about climate change? Or are you angry about, I don't know, women's issues or activism or AI being regulated? Whatever makes you really angry, start there. There's something in it that's meaningful for you, that you're somehow passionate about, right? And so don't make it harder than it needs to be to say what's my passion. Over time, you just follow your energy. And
Yeah.
over time you refine it.
You know where I'm like getting my energy. I think the whole world is fucked up. Right? According to Gallup, there's only 20%
Yeah.
of the people, 20% of the people doing jobs they like. 80% of the people they do the jobs they don't like. Because I don't think we do in the 21st century human development, whether this is schools or afterwards, on the level of the 21st century. We have like artificial intelligence and systems which did not change last 300 years. The last, school reform in Central Europe was done by Maria Theresa in 1776. That was the last, school reform, right? And the school is teaching you how to answer questions, not teaching you how to ask right questions, because creativity is about curiosity first of all, and then you ask new questions, and that's the way you learn, right? So that's something, for example, what is driving me. I really want to change it, and it's like, for me it's absolutely clear, right, how it should be. But unfortunately, it's not like that, because and I tell you, where is it coming from? Because, and it's well known that our brains got something which is called negative bias. Amygdala is about 10 times faster than your logical part of the brain. So we are scanning for the negativity. So all development models, because of that, are based on basically fixing weaknesses, not developing the strengths. It's okay to spend some time on the weaknesses, but if you wanted to differentiate yourself, live your own story, it is about who you are. It's not about who you are not. You see?
Yes.
This is it.
I tell people all the time, hey, who knows? Is Albert Einstein really good at basketball? We don't know. Why? Because who cares? He was brilliant in science. We don't care if he was good at basketball. We will only get to be really well known, really build our capacity based on our strengths. And that's one of the things in who I am and what I stand for. You want to know your values, you want to know your purpose, but you also want to know what are my strengths, what are my differentiators. And also, I always tell people, look, start easy, build your credibility. What experiences do you have? What degrees do you have? What job titles have you had? Don't forget that that is part of your story, no matter how early on in your career or where you are in middle management. This is important. And
Yeah.
start to articulate what it is that you care about. So Jan had his life purpose. Oh, here we have a
No,
quote up here.
good evening.
Yeah.
Jan, it's not 80%. I would say only 5% really love what they do. Milan, my numbers are coming from the real research. It's not like feelings, and it's from Gallup. You can check it on the webpage. It's called engagement study. So there are really like between, it depends country to country, but between 15 to 25. So in average would be like 20% people actively engaged. Those are people loving their jobs. The rest is not engaged or actively disengaged. Actively disengaged means that they hate their jobs. It's like 40% of the people, according to the study. And they are like getting up in the morning, they are pissed off, and they go to work to piss off other people, right? So,
I'm
so
angry and I'll bring the rest of you down with
I
me.
hear you, absolutely.
We've also got another good question here from Marek, if you want to bring that one up.
Okay, I'll do that. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think that people will ever get back to the well-being real purpose? Thomas Bata was a great example. I don't know exactly what that means. Does that ring a bell for you, Jan?
You know who was, do you know who was Thomas Bata?
Mm-mm.
Shoemaker. You don't know? You kidding,
Should I
Thomas
be
Bata
ashamed?
is, you are American, that's okay. He was, yeah, basically. Anyway, but it's even in the United States. Thomas Bata was a Czech origin shoemaker, and he make, quite good and quite cheap shoes, basically, right? It's like third or fourth generation anyway, right? And he was really, he was great entrepreneur. There are a lot of, books about him and stuff like that. And I think, uh, he was the real thing was he was not only like entrepreneur making profit, but he was taking care also about the workers and about the community. He
Mm-hmm.
built the schools and university and stuff like this. I think that's what Marek means, to really like, purpose. Real purpose was like well-being of the other people. He built some, buildings. There is a city, city, it's like I think 60, 70,000 people living there. Zlín in Moravian part of the Czech Republic. And he built some, houses, and they are still using those houses, like even though it's like many, many years ago. So he was a really good example of kind of the guy who, built huge business, but who was taking care of his people also, right? And
Yes.
the people were like going, if they hire you, you were going to get like entrepreneurship, right? And you were going in the circus to try like every 3 months different jobs. So you really, even though you were manager, so you really something, yeah, like what Ford was doing a little bit. But this was, I would say, he was a Ford with a human face.
Well, apparently he's quite
don't
well
want
known in our chats,
don't
but
want to piss you off, but
so, I mean, here's the answer to the question. I think companies are really actively looking at sustainability.
yeah,
And
exactly.
so I do think they will be doing things like replenishing natural resources and being more caring about the environment. Included in sustainability is around the people. With that said, do I think companies are actually actively doing anything for people right now? No. Most of what they're doing is that checkbox of, we gave you a yoga class and we taught you some resilience. Where I have some hope is with AI, because as people are cutting down their resources, really focused on profits, everybody's overworked, very chaotic, it's all
Yeah.
ambiguous. My hope is that as AI comes and can do a lot of the support work, that people will be able to have a little more balance, so they're not always strategy and execution and being pulled all over the place, but they'll actually feel like they have the support resources from AI. I also think that we have to stand up a little bit and sort of have this demand for our well being, because as that groundswell rises, companies feel they have to do it. They feel that market pressure to keep key talent. So, do I think companies are going to do it on their own to be kind? Most likely not, although there are good examples. Patagonia is the best example I can think of someone who just really cares. Um, but I think if we can create the market conditions, companies will listen.
Yeah. Let's now talk a little bit about the personal story, why story works, and how to build it. Okay. Why story works? Because our brain works. It's called, neurons which fire together, wire together. If you go somewhere and you will tell only facts about your life, hey, I was, working from that time there, and there I was, studying that school, whatever. It's okay, but the other person will not remember that much. If you will put your data in the context and create the story, that's the way how people were like handing over information and some knowledge to the next generation. So there's a context. What is happening? Your neurons which are holding some information, for example, better by the Waterloo, right, are getting connected through the synapses. That's why we call it neurons which fire together, wire together. And in that case, you create through the story structural change in the brains. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why people remember stories. This is it. Now, what are good stories? Good story is, for example, as we mentioned, Cinderella story. Okay, that you were somebody who was like outsider, nobody was taking you, seriously enough, whatever. Okay, then the next, it's like journey. Okay, and you like, especially if you are during the interview. I mean, when I was interviewing somebody, I was like, okay, give me your CV, give me like 5-10 minutes spiel, what you did, what is your experience, whatever. And then I was shooting the questions, and my one of the first question was like, tell me the story about your worst experience, the biggest fuck up you did in your career so far, how you overcome all of that shit, right? And if the person said, no, I didn't do anything like that, that's not good person for me. That's not good learner, right? Because
Yeah. 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 Great.
you are not risking enough. You want people who are able to decide on their own, right? But there was somebody who said, "Hey, this is it. What I learned. This is how I overcome those things." Fine. Then obviously the hero journey is another story. Then the other story which works especially in the sport, it's kind of the David Goliath story. Right?
Yes.
That's what you can see at Wimbledon. Usually they are like rooting for somebody who is like outsider always, right?
Underdog.
Underdogs, exactly. So this is it, right? Now the best stories should be, I call it 2C, should be credible, okay, and should create emotional connection. So connection,
Yes.
credibility and connection, right? Those two, because people like to see, that's I mean, in the majority, if you think about the stories, in majority of the stories there is some good stuff, but there are like tough moments. Those people need to, those are the best stories, right? Even if you watch some comedies, there is always some fuck up there or stuff like that, really, right? So
That's what a sitcom is. Some.
exactly, because I think people want to relate your story. Hey, this is it.
Yes.
Whenever I speak, I have like room of 500 people. Whenever I speak, about my depression, usually 3-4 people would come to me. They would give me a hug and they would say, Jan, I know what you were talking about. You exactly, right? And this is it, right?
Yes.
So this is it. So that's why I think the story is so important. It should be, obviously it should be based on the facts. You should not do. I'm always saying like, 90% facts, 10% marketing. You can put like 10%, you know what I mean, but not something which would not be true, but something which is okay. Then
Yes.
in your story, what is also good, if you can have some reference point, somebody who is quite, known. I tell you what, for some reason, I know Deepak Chopra since 2010, okay? And now it's like for 13 years. And I really like when Deepak Chopra spoke to like Microsoft managers in Seattle. I talked to him a little bit. I said, "This is fantastic. I'm your reader, whatever." Right? Then I moderated him a couple of times. I will moderate him again. He will be in Prague September 20th. So I will moderate his, session. Right?
Mhm.
But because we built some, connection, the guy put his name on my first book on the cover page. He got like 86 New York Times bestsellers on the list, this guy, Deepak Chopra. And he put like, this is a great book, Deepak Chopra, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But this is it. So you need to build those connections, over the years. And it should not be based on, a lot of people are, basing they, relationship on transactions. And then, if you will ask somebody and you give that person some attention or whatever, I think they'll help. I asked for my first book 12 people to put the reference there. Okay, the only one guy replied, "Hey, I can't do it," because that was a Kevin Johnson, who was a CEO at that time. He put something on my LinkedIn, but he said, "I can't do whatever, right?" Because he was a CEO of Starbucks at that time. But but if you go to my LinkedIn, he talked about like what we did in Microsoft, right? And all other, so he said, "I can't do it," but all other people said, "Hey, we will do it," and it was
Yes.
really good. I got a lady, Patricia Chervas. She was like main, moderator in CNBC, really top, people, right? But again, in my career, I was working on those relationships because a lot of people today, somebody said, "Jan, we need to get, connected because we have like 120,000 people on social networks." I said, "I do, but it's some, work. Plus, I'm on LinkedIn since I was in Microsoft. And you need to build your database or relationship before you need them, right?
Yes.
Some people are fired from the jobs and they start to build LinkedIn, that's too late to me.
Yes. And for me, Jan, you're so good. You've moved so fast because, like I said, for my team, we have a whole worksheet of how we do it,
Perfect.
and we go in a particular order.
Yeah, yeah,
And where we went was like who I am and what I stand for. Because we haven't explicitly said this, but your brand needs to be authentic. Sometimes people come and say, "Okay, I think this is what I'm supposed to be. How do I make it so people believe I'm this?" No, 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 no. Back up. Who are you? What do you believe? And then we authentically brand it. And then we take that knowledge about you and we create that brand identity. And that's where Jan was saying, "Hey, what's your story?" By the way, I want to add into this story stuff. I often like to make the story a bit surprising.
yeah,
The reason for that, as Jan said, if you want people to remember you, yes, you can tell a lovely story and then they were entertained for an evening and then they go away and they forget you. If you tell something that's slightly surprising, this is why comedy is funny, because a comedian sends you in this direction, this direction, this direction, and then says something you weren't expecting and you go, "Oh, that's funny." So often I will do my best to be a little bit surprising in my stories. So I give you a perfect example because in some of the comments here, we have people asking for examples. When people ask me, "Hey, what do you do?" Of course, I could say I'm an executive coach, right? I could even tell a full story about being an executive coach. But often what I will do is say, "I'm going to answer that, but give me a second. Tell me what is a story about a boss you've had who was the worst boss you've ever
right.
had." And then they say, "Oh, well, this person, and they did this and this and this." And I say, "Great." I work with those people to get them to stop doing that bullshit. And then they go, "Oh, that's what you do." Believe you me, they remember because they remember how bad their boss was. They remember how much they
Yeah,
wish that person had been different. And they remember I'm the person who solves that. So I didn't give my story on the front end. I helped to create it and make it emotionally important and impactful for them. And then I told them what I do, and they will remember me. People are often like, can I have a business card and just leave it on my current boss's desk? Or, oh, I need to, tell HR about you, because they already become my advocate simply because I've shown them how relevant it is. So I want you to think about surprising ways to share who you are, what you stand for, not
Right.
not just having an elevator pitch that you have to go out with,
Yeah.
but really how to make it relevant for the audience. Um, Oftentimes when yeah,
I guess
sorry.
I need to clarify. Jan is saying, so you are basically saying it's all about the approach of each individual to be productive rather than static. Jan, I think, I guess I need to clarify what I said. The Gallup engagement study measures, engagement of the, people in like 12 biggest, markets in the world. Okay. So probably they don't do it in Czech, but it's more or less, I think, similar. Okay. And it says that around 20% of the people, they really like what they do. Okay. So they are in, if you take Maslow, vocabulary, they are self-actualized. They really like what they do. Okay. Uh, Among those, 80%, half of that, it's just like 40%, they don't like what they do, but they just do it, right?
Yeah,
And
show up, get the
40%
paycheck.
are actively disengaged, which basically means they hate the jobs. So, which means like altogether, 80% of the people, they don't like what they do. 40% they really, it's like actively disengaged means that you are creating. We talked recently about toxic relationship. This is exactly a toxic relationship. And now, what I mean by individual approach, to really make sure that every person in the organization can play strengths, can use their, natural talents, stuff like that. Because the best teams, guess what? I'm tomorrow. I'm with the Czech national team in fencing in Brno, and then I have a Jiří Lehecka, later on the
Cool.
tennis. And very often I'm asked, what are the best teams? Best teams are the teams where each and every player or each and every worker is using his or her best talents. So there is a lot of synergy. My talents are covering Lisa's weaknesses and the other way around. So we are really, team, right?
Yes.
For example, I'm never, if you enjoy the English, when I'm sending the invitation, that's done by Lisa. I'm sending though. I'm like good in clicking, right?
Yeah.
Good in writing. So, yeah. So, but it's not enough. So everybody is like liking what he or she is doing. So everybody is in the flow. But the team flow, it's about inspiration. So there is a common denominator,
Yes.
and that inspiration is the vision. If there is a vision, everybody believes what everybody else is believing, and that's usually, I mean, the vision is usually represented by the leader of that, particular team. Then everybody is in the flow, and then it's going, very well. And it's very often, it's not about changing the jobs, it's just doing jobs a little bit, differently, because if you have a different talents, right? There
Yes.
is another question. If we could say
Yes.
3 examples of people with best practices related to personal branding, worst practices, whatever. I mean, you can take Europe/worldwide, and I can take, the Czech environment.
Well, I can actually make it really simple for the people who
Okay.
have the worst practices. You've never heard of them. You don't know who they are. They haven't gotten very far. And that is the worst practice you can do. If you've worked in politics or in PR, you know there's no such thing as bad press, because at least people know who you are and they're talking about you. And then you can always reform your identity. Who are the people that are doing it best? Every single CEO that you know that has a certain brand. Mark Zuckerberg wears his t-shirts, right? You can count on that. You know that, Sarah Blakely, who did Spanx, is going to be about like women bosses and entrepreneurial energy in the feminine way. So anybody who's built their brand that you know of, come on, Virgin, Richard Branson, he was always the wild child out there, riding on whatever wave runners with bikini models, right? So Anybody that you know of, Michelle Obama, it doesn't matter. Anyone where you can say they're famous and you know about them, you can describe them pretty particularly, it means that they've done a really good job with personal branding. Personal branding does not mean you like the person or you don't. We all know, for example, Donald Trump has a very strong personal brand. Whether you like him or not is irrelevant of whether he's done a good job of personal branding. You know his name. His name is on towers, his name is on ties, he was president. So he's done a great job in terms of personal branding because you know who he is and you know what he's about.
Yeah. On the Czech side, I will name, some people. If we talk, about managers, I think Karolina Topolova, she's a CEO of AAA Auto. She's there like 20, more than 20 years. She is really great. She is a great, leader, and she is also talking about not only about her business, but in overall. So that's one. Slovakia, I would say Peter Krutil, and it's not because I coach him. That's the gentleman running Slovakian Erste Bank, Slovenská sporiteľná. Really great guy. Again, he even like beyond the borders of Slovakia. In sport, I would say starting in Czech Republic was a Peter Cech, was a goalkeeper. Then he was with Arsenal and Chelsea, and he is a famous worldwide basically now. And he got a good reputation, good brand, really good guy. And artist, unfortunately, he's not among us anymore. Karel Gott. In my view, that guy was really like he died a couple of years ago when he was 80 years. So he was a very famous singer. Not that much in the US, but very famous in Austria, Germany, Czech Republic, Slovakia. Really a nice person, and really he was a great guy. And people are still buying a lot of songs, and people are like to listen to those songs. And if basically that brand is surviving you, that's something for me. You know what I mean, right? Yeah.
And
It's
you
like
have to
King, whatever.
But the point is, you have to stand for something.
Exactly.
People have to know what you're about. So even earlier, you said Roger Federer, and it was like, yes, he's a great tennis player, but also he stands for sustainability and he stands for, the new brand On running shoes. When Cristiano Ronaldo went out to a press circuit and Coca-Cola sponsors them, he took the Coca-Cola away and said, no, agua, water, be healthy. That's what he stands for. That's his brand, right?
Again, I give you a little bit, technical. I understand why he did it, but he did not realize that he was, flying free of charge. He was there free of charge because of the Coca-Cola. So if I'm Coca-Cola, I would not. I'm not drinking Coca-Cola. Don't take me wrong, but I would not be happy. And this is not the way how such top athletes should behave. Sorry.
That's a different story, but the point of it is his brand is all about fitness and health, right? And that was on brand. And what I want to say, and you said it earlier about Greta Thunberg, she's all about the environment, and yet she's flying a private jet. The story of who you are and what you stand for, you have to live it. You have to actually be that, or otherwise people won't buy into your story. They think you're a hypocrite, it's not authentic.
I agree. Let's talk a little bit, because we covered the story, and I think for the personal brand, there's another important element. It's called charisma. Like your way to attract people, right? And a lot of people think that charisma is basically you are born with. You need to have a talent for it. It's it's like public speaking. It's the same thing, right? So, let me frame a little bit, and then I will hand over to Lisa. I think charisma is about three things. It's about, basically expressing positive power, right? But for example, in tennis, guys, what they do right now, they are saying that they call it, the change room, power, basically, right? In the room where you are like, getting ready. And they are saying that Djokovic is starting to play already when the other he got some aura, it's they call it's called locker room power in tennis,
Yeah.
like Djokovic or Alcaraz, whatever. So I try to tell my tennis players. I still have a Nikki Bartunkova. She's playing junior. She's among 16. She's playing tomorrow, so she won twice.
Yeah.
She's still. I have one tennis player still in the game, but anyway. So this is it. Like when I met, for example, Prince Charles, now King Charles, obviously, or Tony Blair, you feel at that moment they are like handshake, and you feel like the most important person for your counterpart. Really, you feel and this is it. This is this positive vibes, right? Right. So this is it. Then those people are here and now. They are in the present moment. Right?
Yes.
If you are charismatic, and then they are warm. Absolutely, they are like open, warm, and they take you as a like I had a privilege because of the Bill Gates, and now here I met many top tennis players and so on. But I felt like, hey, I'm one of them. I never felt like with Bill Gates or some of his friends who were like billionaires. Hey, I'm the guy from some village in Czech Republic. No, because those people, if they are on some level, they are like, hey, that's fine, and they are. And then what is also interesting, they are asking a lot of questions, right? So they are like
Yeah.
interested in right? This is it. The one observation, Lisa, and then I'll hand over to you,
Yeah.
which I made, that charismatic people are able to influence other people, but it's very hard to influence them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
for example, I'm like many people are telling, "Hey, Jan, you are charismatic." I don't know, probably a little bit. I am, but for sure, I know that it's very hard to sell me something. Very often, if I wanted to buy, I go and I buy it. If somebody is trying to sell me, very rarely I would buy anything. That's
Yes.
is it.
Jan, you've described charisma so nicely. So, first of all, for anyone looking to develop their charisma, because it is in fact absolutely
It is
learnable,
skill.
the best book I know on charisma is called The Charisma Myth by Olivia
Absolutely.
Fox Cabane.
And
And
she's an introvert. Olivia is
yes,
introvert.
but it
Absolutely.
doesn't matter. This
Yeah,
is the
yeah,
point.
yeah.
You learn the skills. And as Jan said it, power, warmth, presence. And it's the balance of sort of these three. And there are different kinds of charisma. She talks about kindness charisma and the Dalai Lama, and listening charisma, where Oprah is just the best listener in the world. And then you have, the power charisma, right? Like a dictator of some sort. So don't think there's one right way to be charismatic. There are different elements, and the way you mix it should be aligned with sort of who you are and what you stand for. And what Jan's getting to, so as I mentioned, with personal brand, who I am and what I stand for is sort of the first pillar you have to create. Then you turn that into your identity. What's my story? What's my brand image? What do I stand for? What's the promise I sort of give to people? Then what Jan's getting into, the last part, is how do I convey my brand? And part of that, then, that bucket that we're in now, is what's my brand embodiment, my presence. And Jan said it so nicely, this embodiment of power. People feel when you just are confident within yourself, because again, you know who you are, you know what you stand for. That's why people can't just sell you or trick you, because you're not going, "Oh, am I pleasing them? Am I doing it right?" You're not looking outside of you for reassurance. You've built it within. And people love someone who has confidence. And that is one of these unknown secrets of looking powerful, is just having the confidence. I know who I am. I know what I stand for. If I didn't get the job, cool, I'll get another one. Cool, I'll learn from this, and then I can move on. When you have that, even if you have no title, even if you're, I don't care, 12 years old, but you have the confidence within, people will be attracted because they will feel your power. Other people, and again, I don't mean assertive power, I don't mean mean power, but confidence.
Right.
True inner confidence is power. And people are attracted to power. Didn't mean to cut you off
It's
if you
the
want.
same. It's the
Yeah.
same with the doctors. You want to have a doctor who has got this internal power, and is
Yeah.
able to basically
Yeah.
show it. Right. This is
Yeah.
it, and here is the point. Right. You can easily, through your body and through your body language, you can easily beat some negative thoughts, or some hey, I'm not enough, whatever. No. Because it's called power posing. If you stay straight, right, after 30 to 60 seconds, your testosterone, which is your energy, goes up by 20%. Cortisol, your stress hormone, 25% down. And your
Yeah.
ability to risk, it's like one third up. So you feel whatever is happening, I'm always telling my athletes, whatever is happening, it makes no sense unless you put some sticker on what is happening, right? If you are losing, you can still feel like a winner even though you are losing, and you are not winner because you are losing in that particular moment, but you can feel through the hormones, you can feel as a winner.
Yes.
And it's the same in your life.
Yes, exactly. The people who get ahead have that confidence and they say, look, okay, you try to bring me down. I failed. Who cares? I learn, I move forward. Those are the people who are the ultra performers. I study and I work with the ultra elite performers. So, there are high performers who do really well in corporates,
Right.
let's say, and then there's the people who go above and beyond, just like your athletes, right? Who are the rock stars who can get
Right.
past and really to the edges of human potential? And that's what they can do. They can just know, okay, I find my energy within. I don't look outside. I don't make sure everyone likes me. I go within, I build my confidence, and I move, and I'm focused, and I'm directed. And people love that power. Not because you're powerful and you're going to use it to create fear, but you know what you're doing. Even if you don't know what you're doing, but I'm here, I'm going to learn, I'm going to try, I'll keep going, I'll be resilient.
There is a study, I read it just recently, and they measure athletes who won Olympic Games once with those who did it twice or three times, or like in the
Ooh.
multiply disciplines. Okay. And what is clear, that one part is self-confidence, and is driven by basically your body language, because once you are self-confident and you are here and now, you concentrate much better, because they've got a better concentration, better focus, right? And they started to study how comes there is a better focus, and they figure out, yeah, because the body language is driving consistent performance, because you feel like, hey, this is it. You would never see me if I'm presenting like staying like that, no, or this one. Sometimes I may do this, but this is like close gesture, right? It's much
Yeah.
better to be like open, right? And so those are like small things, but making a lot of difference, because if even if you go, try to go tomorrow, if you go to the metro station or whatever, try to put your shoulders down like for 5 minutes, and then figure out what is your feeling, and then you go like, hey, now I'm the lion, and I go like a like a lion, right? The
Yes.
other, if we talk about the sport, the other thing which I started to use, and it's very, very, especially with the people I don't know that much yet, but it's very powerful. I ask them, tell me what are your most favorite athletes, and tell me why. Because we
Mm-hmm.
are basically reflecting, we have those mirror neurons, and we are reflecting some other people, and everybody, I mean, very rarely people would say, I'm not really interested in sports. I think 80% of the executives or whatever people would say, hey, this is it, this gentleman, because of that. And then you can start to learn more and more about the person, about his or her values, right?
Yes.
So
Yes. We're almost out of time, and there is
yeah,
one thing I really, really need to say. Although I could spend another hour on executive presence altogether, but we were talking about strategic networks. Yeah, I'm going to touch on this briefly, and I want to tell people, please, 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 beyond getting a mentor, Please also find a sponsor. A mentor helps you to gain knowledge, they can give you some guidance. It's very good, it's very strategic in helping you. A sponsor is someone who has power, who's going to vouch for you and put your name in the room with the decision makers. And like Jan said, you want to plant these seeds, you want to have sponsors before you ever need them, because you personal brand, yes, if I say I'm great, okay, people roll their eyes and go, of course she's going to say that. You want other people talking about how great you are, because then it sounds credible and
Yeah,
believable. So who are the people, the decision makers who have power, who are going to put your name in the room for opportunities, for, who are going to advocate for you? And if you don't have sponsors, start building them now
I agree.
before you ever need them.
I agree.
Good. We have a long note in here, so
Let's do it. Let's run a little
let's
bit
go.
over. Now, I engage Marek. I engaged my son, 13 years old, into some garden work this afternoon, and I saw he was not in the mood, and has no motivation. He told me, kids these days, and I replied that people around you can inspire you, but motivation is up to you. In 5 minutes, he changed his attitude, and we enjoy the work together. I believe that people around you will always have a massive impact on building of your personal brand, who you are.
Yes.
That's true. That's true. But I'm not saying it's because I did, but we have the same inspiration. Yeah. The
Yes.
the thing is very very often, mixing inspiration and motivation. Motivation in psychological literature are usually things like outcomes, the things which are around you. Inspiration is really inside you. You're right. This is it. Very often you would hear also intrinsic motivation, which equals inspiration. Inspiration is intrinsic motivation, and extrinsic motivation is motivation like external motivation, right? But even some athletes are mixing it. But this is it. But you are right that it needs to go from your heart, basically. If you that people can influence you, but at the end of the day, it's really about you, whether you will like it or not. Right? I mean, especially like. If you are extrovert, people presence can help you more than if you are introvert. If you are introvert and you don't feel like I should not do, you will not do it, right? So this is it. You really need to feel it. The extroverts are taking a little bit more energy from the people. Introverts, no. But introverts, usually, if they do some jobs, they can concentrate. They are not distracted by the other. It's all about energy. Introvert is getting energy from her or himself, and extroverts from the other people. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will add this note as we wrap up. This intrinsic motivation that Jan is talking about, what comes from inside, can often come from what we said at the beginning. What's your purpose? What are your values? What do you care about? What's the impact you want to make on the world? Who are you as a person? That is what drives you from the inside. Do I look good for other people? Will they get the promotion? All that outside stuff, that puts you more in the worried state of mind. It does not give you the energy, the intrinsic motivation, the curiosity, the fun of learning, the love of a job well done will always propel you forward. So find who you are and what you stand for, because that is what will give you the energy to keep going.
Absolutely. Perfect. Okay,
Good.
guys, have a nice week, and see you
Yes.
soon. Yeah. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Take care.
Bye.